Hey everyone, InventRight co-founder Andrew Krause here. We are live. At least I hope we're live. If one or two of you could type in yes to confirm you can hear me, that would be great. I'll let you guys know when I see that. Okay, Gris, thank Alexandre. Thank you for the sound check, everybody. Um, Alexandre said, welcome back, Andrew. Let's have another great show today. I will make sure it's a great show. And you guys make it a great show with your great questions. So thank you. Should I say the word great one more time? I don't think I'm saying the word great enough. Let me put this mic. Good sound quality, I think, is important, but we don't want to put it like here because that's getting ridiculous. So I think right about there is good. I think we'll be good. All right. Good deal. I already see some questions coming in. Before we get started, of course, like we'll get a few people at the beginning, and then more people show up 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes in, then about 20 minutes in, we usually have a full crowd. So just want to remind you, if you ask your question sooner rather than later, um, I think we've actually had a few where I answered them all, but usually I can't get to them all, especially ones that people type later. So if you have a question for me, please type it in now. Just to remind you guys, what InventRight is all about is licensing products. And what that means is when you license a product, it's that big company's money, it's their workforce. You don't need to hire any employees, and it's their distribution. If they're already in 30,000 stores, you have the potential to be in 30,000 stores. So you get the money, the workforce, you get them working for you, and you get their existing distribution because big retailers, they don't like one product company. So if you guys are thinking about selling the product yourself instead of licensing it for royalties, they really don't want to deal with you. And we've heard from this from some of the large companies that we know personally, and they're like, we're trying to focus more on product lines because retailers don't like one SKU one product companies. Now if your goal is to venture it and sell it yourself instead of licensing it to a company and getting royalties, that is doable. I'm not going to crush your dreams or anything, but I find that most inventors, that when you get into the weeds of what you really need to do to manufacture and sell your own product, they don't have the money, they don't have the time, and they don't really want to focus on that. They'd rather focus more on coming up with ideas and not doing all the work for years and years to come. And then really, you're not going to survive with one product company if you don't then, if you work your butt off to sell it yourself instead of licensing it, and you manage to get into a few retailers, they're going to kick you to the curb pretty damn quick if you don't come up with a whole product line. Then you're like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Or I started this company spending 60, 70-hour work weeks. I'm in debt hundreds of thousands of dollars. I talked to a guy the other day who's in debt $1 million, that he's on a product he's been trying to venture. And now I didn't want to come up with more products in this category, but the retailers are saying, or they kicked me to the curb because I didn't have other products. And, imagine you're the buyer at a major retailer, and if every single product had a different vendor, they'd want to shoot themselves in the head. It's too much to deal with. So that's why licensing is a great match for most inventors, not all, but most, because when you license to that really big company, they already have distribution. They have a manufacturer's rep calling on the buyers forever. They know Bob, they know Sally, and they just pull another product out of their bag and they go, well, we got 6 products with you and got this new product here. And they're guess what? That buyer at that retailer or distributor is looking around for who to kick off the shelf because they only got so much space on the shelf. And they kick off that little guy that managed to get in somehow with their one product, because the company you license to that already has 8, 10, 15, 20 products in their store says, hey, put this new product on the shelf. I'll give you a discount on this other thing. They know they have that relationship. Where if you try to sell it yourself and you're calling on a buyer, they're barely giving you the time of day because you're a product with a company with one product. So I'm just saying, imagine a world in which the buyer, they have usually buyers in different categories, maybe one for kitchen, maybe one for certain type of sporting goods, maybe another one for this area, that area. And imagine if every product they had, and some of these retailers have an insane number of products, had a different vendor, it would not be doable. So that's the benefit of licensing to a large company. Not only can they get it into those retailers and distribution channels, whatever they may be, but they can maintain it and keep it there. So it's not just about getting it in a store, it's about keeping it in a store. And big companies can do that, where if you try to do it on your own, it's very, very, very hard. Okay. Um, that's weird. It says that the chat is disconnected. Please wait while we try to reconnect. I'm going to type a test. I'm just going to write test here. I think it's reconnected. I think it just went down for a second there. Type in yes if you guys can still hear me. I think it's fine. I think just the internet skipped there for a second. I'm going to wait for one of you guys to type yes, just to make sure we're still connected. I don't see anything yet. There is a delay. I don't know what the delay with YouTube live streams are, if it's 30 seconds or a minute or even 2. But I just wanted somebody to type yes so that I don't start reading these answers and you guys got to watch the replay or anything. It's going to type it. Can you guys type yes if you can hear me? Okay. Well, I'll just start answering some questions. I think it should be fine. I'm showing connected and everything, but maybe the chat, you guys can't type back to me and the chat's like temporarily broken. Boy, that would suck. But let's just start answering some of these questions, and then hopefully the chat will start working again. YouTube gets a little buggy at times. My 2 cents, who is a regular, says, thanks for your time and the Q&A every Monday. I imagine a few people you have worked with quit. What are the qualities that make a successful inventor? What makes someone quit? Looking at yourself and those you've worked with, what recharges an inventor's battery? I love that question. That's a beautiful question. Let's talk about what makes for a successful inventor. I'm just going to assume you guys all can hear me. It's just the chat that's broken. It's not the audio, because I'm showing that the audio is fine. I think that in the long run, and this is hard for a lot of inventors to accept, but it's very little about your idea. So I like to say that to shock people. And so when I say that, I'm going to qualify what I mean by that. Inventing and the idea itself is about 10% of the process. Now, you can't license a lump of coal. So with that said, the idea is extremely important. Of course it is. But if you have a great idea, but you half-ass the effort, and the effort is the other 90%, it's studying the space of your invention, looking at all other products objectively, not like that sucks, mine's better than that, mine's better than that. That you're just doing yourself a disservice there, because all the companies you're going to reach out to, they know the market for this type of product. And if you didn't do your research, they're going to be like, what about this? What about, oh, well, I didn't see that. And it's like, then you spent money on a patent and making your list of companies and a sell sheet, and you reached out, and then a company has to tell you that that product's already been done before. That's not smart. So what makes for a successful inventor is realizing that you can stay excited about your invention, nothing wrong with that, that the drudgery, which is just like sweeping the floor, once you get to know it and you experience it and it becomes familiar with to you, is not hard, but it's work. And so you don't need to spend, if you spend 2 to 6 hours a week, you will totally move forward with your inventions with licensing. You do not need to spend 60, 70 hours a week like you would if you try to sell your product yourself. And to me, if you're not spending at least 50 or 60 hours, if you're venturing your product yourself, you're not spending enough time and you'll probably fail. Okay. Yeah. You could throw something up on Etsy. That's not really serious, guys. That's just, making a few bucks. And that's not what most of you have in mind. Now, I wish it just says unable to reconnect to the chat. Please try again later. I certainly hope you guys can hear me. That really sucks. Let me get on. I don't know. I don't think I can get on my own stream. Let me open up Firefox just to make sure. And it might reverberate for a second. Let me see if I can go on our own channel just to make sure you guys are hearing me. I don't want to talk for an hour and you guys aren't hearing me. My guess is you guys are. Well, even there I'm logged in. No, I'm not. So maybe it'll show. If I'm not subscribed, I don't think I'll be able to see it. Let me make sure here. Q&A live. Okay, let me click on that. Make sure it's working. Hold on a second, guys. Just 4 seconds here, it says. Okay, I see the live stream's working. And oddly enough, I am seeing in the live stream, the public live stream, I can see the chat there, but I can't see it in the chat for my administrator view. So there we go. We figured out a hack, guys. I'll do whatever it takes to answer your guys' questions. I love that. So yeah, okay, good. I'm looking at the live stream rather than the chat as an administrator. Okay, so my 2 cents, accepting that most of it is just like, reaching out to companies on LinkedIn, making your list of companies, making your sell sheet, following your PPA, and then just being relentless about following up and following through and not going crazy for a week or two, but every single freaking week reaching out to the companies and following up, giving them some time to respond, and reaching out to more companies in the meantime, or starting to put a second project in the pipeline so you're not anxious and sitting twiddling your thumbs waiting for them to respond. Keep yourself busy, and then persistently in an appropriate time frame, keep reaching out to them. And that's what licensing is all about, not your product. And I know I'm just saying that to shock you guys, but so that's what and I think some inventors have a hard time accepting that. So I think that some people will quit because of that. So, one product does not make you an inventor. It's like you came up with one idea. But most of you, if you want to Google images and looked at some category like magnetic doorstops or whatever you want to look at, you would come up with more ideas. So don't be a one-trick pony. Work on more ideas. Don't go blow tons of money on every invention. That's why we teach our students to file a provisional for $75. So what makes some quit? My 2 cents was saying not licensing their first product. And it's like, oh my God, really? Like, you expect to license every single product you work on? Nobody does that. Professional inventors don't do that. So I think not accepting that you won't license every single product you work on. Now, sorry, I got some allergies. I always tell you guys that. That's why I itch my nose. They're getting better though. So, for that project, this is one thing that gets inventors not to quit. This is something I've had talks with students about this in the past. I'm like, you believe in that product. You got 30 non-specific no's, not at this time, not a right match. Well, don't put it in the garbage can. Put it on the shelf. Reach out 6 or 8 or 10 months later. Send it all to the same company, some new ones. I get students license up all the time that way. But in the meantime, don't wait 6 or 10 months to do that. Start working on a new stupid idea. And start keep going. You got that momentum going as an InventRight student where the coach has guided you, and just don't be so pissed off that you can't work on another product. And then some inventors, what they do, go, I couldn't license this thing. Well, screw them. I'm going to venture it myself. I'm like, you're going to quit your day job? You're going to spend $50 to a couple $100,000 just to get started? You think that retailers want to hear from you as a one product company with no prior existence? You really are going to be that stubborn? Like, why not work on another project? Don't put your project in the garbage can. Just push it out there again later. So consistency, persistence, not giving up on a product you really like and you think really makes sense. And so the next time they see it, their boss said, you just got lucky in that time and space. And the boss said 2 weeks earlier, we need new products. And now you're in there with a new that product. And before they said no, and now they're asking you about it because they were too busy before. They actually liked it, but they're too overwhelmed with projects. They wouldn't give you an inkling they liked it because they were overwhelmed and they knew they couldn't take it on. Then you wouldn't go away, right? And so it's not just about your product. Sometimes they like your product, but they won't tell you that because they just look at it. They're a person just like you and me. They're too overwhelmed with everything they're doing, and they don't have the time to take it on. But they didn't tell you that. They don't have to tell you that. So, okay, so the other part of my 2 cents, looking at yourself and those you've worked with, what recharges an inventor's battery? Working on another project and realizing that your project is not dead. You're just going to put it on the shelf for a bit, okay? That's what can recharge your batteries. Yeah, so hopefully that was helpful. I really rambled on that one, but I think that all you guys should hear that. Very, very important. Low Boy said, I'm currently, and you guys can type in your first name if you want, or I can read your handle, whatever you guys prefer. And legal disclaimer, nothing I share with you today should be considered legal advice. Please consult your attorney if you're looking for legal advice. I'm currently talking with a few companies about my first product. During downtime between communications with these companies, I've been developing a prototype for my second product. So I think that before you work on a second project, or if you're having multiple, always make sure you got your full list. So, low boy, if you got your full list, great. Keep reaching out very methodically on that list. Okay. Um, and and then if you're like, I'm in follow up mode, I've got my LinkedIn messages, I got my phone calls in, and you don't want to be emailing them every week. Like maybe you email them or you LinkedIn message them or what have you, and you wait 2 weeks. And as long as you're on that schedule of following up with them, absolutely, because it doesn't take all your time to follow up with people. And I think that a mistake inventors make is they're not that methodical about that sort of thing. And you can't just be creative. Like I said, that's 10% of the process, if that, maybe five. It's about this being really methodical, and everything, all the boring stuff we teach you at InventRight, nothing is going to be as much fun as inventing. And so being really methodical about the follow up and follow through, absolutely, you're doing the absolute right thing by messing around with a new product and starting to work on a new product. Now, don't quit on that older project until you get a no from everybody. And okay, maybe you've reached out 8, 9 times, and you're like, out of these 30 companies, these four, I've reached out 8, 9 times every which way till Tuesday, and they didn't respond. Okay, finally you decide that that's a no. But it's easy to start working on a new project and go, oh, I don't know, I got 15 no's out of 30 there. I think I'm done with that. And then you stop following up and following through. It's like the easiest thing to do. If you've already got a sell sheet, you filed your PPA, you did all that stuff, you made your list of companies, you'd be an idiot not to follow through with all of them. You need to do that. And don't take it personally. And so, low boy, you're doing exactly the right thing. Okay, the other part of your question is, how many products should you be pursuing at the same time before you should consider yourself being spread too thin and not devoting enough time to a certain one? So that's a really good question. So you got your oldest one, project number one, okay? And like following up, if you got into most of them, or you didn't get in, but you didn't get a response, like following up, you could probably do it in an hour once a week. So that's project number one, right? Like once you got most of it in, you already have their LinkedIn connection, you already have an email you need to follow up, or something like that. And so like an hour a week at most, like to follow up and follow through. So then if you have extra time, start working on their project. Now, obviously that's more time consuming. If you need to mess around with a prototype or do a sell sheet or do your list of companies, and all that stuff's more time consuming. But so my mindset, and I've shared this many times before, is you do that during the week, and this you can set up however you want. It's just an example. But Monday, you hit Monday, you're working on project number two, and you hit Monday, you always follow up on project number one, your follow-up stuff. And then you earn the right to the rest of the week to work on project number two, and then project number three, and project number four, and project number five. So you always make your older projects and the follow-up critical, and then you go down from there to the newer project. And if you approach it that way, and then you start to gauge, like, okay, I got a 40-hour a week job, I got to go do this with the kids and this with the family, you can start to gauge how many projects you work on. That's going to vary for everybody, right? And obviously the time, as you have more and more projects, from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 10 to 12 or whatever it is going to pile up. But also, getting up and running with a new project can vary tremendously depending on the product. I mean, our students, once they're trained and they really know stuff for certain projects, not all projects, from the time you have the idea to the time you're reaching out to companies could be 2 or 3 weeks. Now, that's not how it works with our brand new students that don't know the process, and they think they do because they read our books or watched our videos, but they haven't actually been through it. But once you've been through it on a really stupid, simple project, which is a lot of projects, you could have an idea and you could be in front of companies in 2 or 3 weeks, filing the provisional, having done the sell sheet, having done the list of companies, having kind of done the initial outreach on LinkedIn. You could do all that in that timeline, but not when people are new, when you don't know how to do it. So I absolutely love these questions, guys. You guys are doing a great job. And I'm so happy that I can watch my own live stream. I turned off the video, but I can see the questions on the live stream, but not in the admin thing. The admin chat died on me. I don't know why. I think in the recording, the chat will be working. Yeah. Low Boy said, also, thank you for the advice last week. I'm currently using demand for my product with a large company to leverage a potential licensing deal. So he had got some interest, I believe, some retailer or distributor. So I said, well, when you reach out to potential licensees, the brands you're trying to license to, mention you have that interest. It could sweeten the deal. Like, oh, he's already got some interest. Like, we could close an order or something, right? So I don't recommend that people start out with that. Just reach out and see what the interest. Usually, the sky's the limit in the if a company or individual really likes your product in their mind, let them use their imagination how great it could be. But if that's not working out, you can reach out to retailers and distributors and see if they're interested. And they're not going to license it from you, but they could say, "We really like this," and you say, "Hey, we've licensed this to a company, maybe even one of your vendors. Would you be interested?" Oh yeah, But I wouldn't start out with that. I don't think that's necessary, and it can be time consuming. Um, Sadeh says, sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right. Can Iranians, he's in Iran, license their ideas to US companies? I live in Iran, but I don't have any payment restrictions. I could even use a friend's bank account from another country if needed. I don't know if you were the one I spoke to or it was somebody else in Iran. I don't know what the current rules are with Iran. But what we've been told is that we can't, it's so stupid. I mean, whatever, governments and their policies. Um, there's a lot of very smart engineers in Iran. It's a very engineering oriented society. Usually, when somebody reaches out in Iran, they're like an engineer, like 9 times out of 10. And it's just really kind of messed up that technically, that I'm not getting political here, guys, but if you got this individual inventor, guys, he's an inventor just like you and me. And he has ideas just like you and me. And so we should be able to license his product. And I'm not even really certain that licensing a product would be any violation of current rules or what the current rules are. Last time I checked, we could not sell our course to somebody in Iran if they're living in Iran, which I just think is stupid because they're inventors just like us. So I don't want to give any particular advice there because I don't know the law. But what I'll say is we've had students in over 65 countries. We have had students license stuff from, and they live all over the world. Usually they're licensing to a US, Canadian, or European company, or an Asian company that's really big in the US, Canada, or Europe. They're the same as a US company, if you ask me, because they're really big here, like a big, company. Um, and they don't care where the ideas come from. What I would do initially is not mention you're from Iran. I don't think most of the marketing managers would think that's a problem of any kind. And then see what you can work out. And I don't know what the current laws are there, so I can't comment on that. But I would definitely work on your ideas. Just this thing that we're not supposed to talk to. No, the laws didn't say that. People from Iran or do business in any way, shape, or form. I'm not certain that licensing your product, you're not selling anything. They're not buying anything from you, like a physical product from Iran. So I don't know what the rules are there. Um, I know we just can't take payment from people in Iran. So, but them paying you and using a different bank account, I just don't know. Okay. So I can't answer that. Let's see. Okay. I got to jump over here to the other. This is funny. Open up my live stream to be able to see the rest of your questions because I can't see them, but I can see them over here. Let's see what we got here. Kathy said, I contacted a big manufacturer of a product very similar to my idea. Is it possible they wouldn't like it because it competes with the item they manufacture and sell? Yeah, it's possible. Sometimes I'm really kind of dumbfounded by inventors' lack of ability to make a list of potential licensees. And so they go, well, I can only license this company that's making more or less the same thing with this slight change. I'm like, yeah, they could be a potential licensee, but they might see it as competition too. But there's all these other companies that are making kind of stuff in this space, and they might want to make this product they're like, well, we didn't really want to get into that field, but we saw that a lot of people are selling it, but all this stuff's kind of generic. But we do now with your product because it's different, you know. And so, don't limit your list to only one selling more or less exactly the same thing or very similar. They could just be in that space and they're like excited about getting into it. And they don't feel like it's going to hurt their sales of their product. So, but it could help them up their sales. Now, if it's like 90% of the product is theirs and you just have this improvement, you have to negotiate what's reasonable there. Because if they're already selling bazillions of units and you're bringing this one new feature, how many new sales is that going to bring? We had that question the other day. I forget where it was. I think it was on a live stream. So it's all up for debate, but don't limit yourself to ones that are just making the exact same product or very, very similar. I see inventors talk to me all the time about their product, and I'm like, but you can license companies to do this and that and the same shelf space. And it's like, why are you limiting yourself there? So, but yeah, they might consider it competition with those companies. What I would do is I would reach out to the other ones first and then reach out to that one. But I can't say without looking at that particular idea. I wouldn't give them a heads up on what's coming if you really think, oh, like this is going to hurt their sales. But and then I would reach out to the other ones first that want to compete with them. But I would still reach out to them most of the time. Sometimes I look at it, depends on the product, or a coach will look at it. It's like I wouldn't reach out to them. It doesn't make sense. I can't say without seeing the product though. So let's see what else we got here. Jeremy said, I only have an ugly works like prototype. Let me see if I can pull this up over here. I gotta pull the chat up over here. Oh, sorry. Now I lost the chat, guys. Oh, we got a lot of questions here. Let's see. I don't want to skip over anybody. Oh, geez. Okay, Jeremy, I only have an ugly works like prototype. It isn't final, works like, but gets the point across. Is that enough to start contacting companies? Yeah, Jeremy, a lot of our students have no prototype whatsoever. We do a virtual prototype for them. You just needed something that looks good enough to put in a sell sheet. It doesn't have to work at all. Now, we do virtual prototypes for about 75 to 80% of our students, 85% of our students. Now, if an inventor is like, has this beautiful, it looks, but it doesn't work, it looks great, like, why would he do a virtual prototype? That thing looks great. Now, if it's just kind of, it's ugly, like you're saying, you probably don't want to put that in a sell sheet. You should have us or somebody else do a virtual prototype for you, okay? That gets the point across. So your ugly works like, you might use that in a video. They see what it is in the sell sheet. And they go, oh, that's what it would look like. That's nice. And then they see you using it in the video if you needed to demonstrate it. And they realize it's a prototype and it's perfectly fine. Maybe you shoot it from the right angle. There's a lot of ways of creating, it's not deception, but just manipulating their mind, which is good for them because you just want to show them how it would be sold. And you might show it from a distance, but then show the virtual prototype and then show using it, but not quite, and you're implying things. I can't give you an example because it depends on the product, but all right. So Saeed, I already answered that one. Tom said, howdy from Hastings, New York. Howdy. A little later for you, huh? For me, it's only 4:30, but New York is 7:30. Hey, Andrew, thanks for the constant help. I live in Australia. Is it worth filing a PPA through the patent office or just go with the Australian equivalent, the APO? I wouldn't even bother with Australia. I'd file a US provisional patent because in a roundabout way, that's going to protect you in all the PCT countries in which Australia is one of them. So if you get interest from a company that wants to do more than a US patent, it's preserving that right. So I wouldn't even bother with the Australian provisional patent. You guys have a lot of cool options there. I would definitely file a U.S. provisional patent application. It's not legal advice. Please consult an attorney for legal advice. I wouldn't even bother with the Australian PPA. It doesn't make sense. Just file once, $75 once, But that's my business advice, not my legal advice. Wasim said, I have many ideas, more than 50, and need to license it. Don't know where to contact. Well, you got a lot to learn, Wasim. Obviously, you can sign up with our mentoring and coaching, and coach will guide you through it all. If you can't afford that or don't want to do that, watch us ramble on YouTube and read our book, One Simple Idea, and it will help you. I have to say that it's not very often I see our fans license stuff, but I see our students licensing stuff all the time because they had a coach holding their hand through it. and then our negotiation coach helping with the negotiations. And then we're trying to set our students up to license products the rest of their life because they got that real experience. You think you know something by watching a video or reading a book, but you don't know anything until you do it. That'd be like reading a book about football without ever having thrown a football. And that's what a lot of inventors think they can do, but it doesn't really work. Um, so, Alexandre, what would be your best way to keep up with the follow up, CRM, or what to put in an Excel spreadsheet? So, I don't care what you guys use, but when you start working on, even one, especially when you start working on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 projects at once, you need a follow up system. I don't care if it's note cards. I don't care if it's an Excel spreadsheet. I don't care if it's he called a CRM, customer relationship management software out there, but you need a system to follow up with. And, I think it's really nice if you use a computer system or a paper system to have a tickler to know when to reach out. Remember earlier I mentioned reaching out every Monday. It could be Tuesday, Wednesday, doesn't matter. I'm just giving it as an example. Consistently reaching out, that you have a tickler on when to do that because people fall off on that. So you should be very systematic about it. I don't care what you use. For different people, different things are applicable. If you just want to put it on a freaking piece of paper, that's fine. And you just write down next follow-up date. Maybe you highlight the next date and then you cross it out. That'd be like the super most simplistic way I could think of. You could do the equivalent of it in Excel. But every outreach, you should have a note, I think, because Alexandria was saying what should be there. Every out should have a note with what happened, like reached out again on LinkedIn, send another email to follow up on this. And then you should have a date for when your next one is. Like you're going to email them again 2 weeks later. So what you did each instance, and then what the next one is. So either you're looking at a piece of paper or an Excel spreadsheet or a CRM is dropping you a pop-up saying you need to follow up today with these people. Doesn't matter what you use. And sometimes, like, I'm pretty geeky on the computer, so I would use a CRM. But if you're just not that geeky, you're going to mess it up. You're going to try to use a computer program and you get all confused and then it's all a big mess. And then, but some people they're like, I'm good with Excel. You don't have to be good with it. I put things in cells and I put my notes. I'm good with that. Other people are like, I'm just not a computer person. Put it on a piece of paper. And as long as you're methodical about whatever approach you use, I don't care. Whatever works for you. And that's going to be different for different people. William said, if you give a company a good product, but it doesn't warrant a patent beyond the provisional, how do companies typically handle the royalty? Just the same. We have tons of students where the company is like, we don't want to file a patent on it. You can file if we don't care about patents. And they license it and the contract is not dependent on the patent. Every single time when our negotiation coach, Paul, helps a student negotiate, we will try to make the entire licensing agreement not dependent on a patent. It's great. Now, sometimes they'll insist on it. Oh, great. Okay, we'll put that in there. But if we can get away with that, we will every single time. So do not correlate getting a patent with them paying you. In the licensing contract, it can stipulate they need to pay you regardless. And there's tons of companies that are okay with that. And so to answer your question specifically, William, as long as it specifies that they need to continue to pay you if they use your invention, you don't need a patent to get that guarantee. It's all in the licensing agreement. And people don't understand this. They have this weird thing, and I'll give you guys another tip, which I always give, is never say, I want to sell you my patent. That's like the biggest rookie move ever. Or I want to sell you my idea. You don't want to say that. You want a license that's professional. I want to license the product to you and receive a small royalty. So when you guys make money, I make that small royalty. And I like using the word small because then they're like, oh, he's not a whacked out inventor looking for $500,000 up front. But it could add up to serious money. And, they'll prompt you and they'll say, well, what would that royalty be? Well, it depends on what you do with the product. We need to know more. We can get into that at some point. I don't know enough about what you do with the product. Then I can come back to you with the royalty rate. So, because they'll always say, what would that be? And you'll say it's all going to depend on what you do with it. We need to have some more talks about what you do with it. And then I can set a term sheet to you, you got to be really careful about doing that on your own, guys. I talk to a lot of inventors that are fans of ours, and then they say they got interest, and then they tell me about what transcribed back and forth, and I'm like, ooh, why'd you do that? That was the wrong approach. So Uh, we give you enough information to be dangerous. We give it all away, guys, but it depends on the situation, you know. Um, See, Robert said, I have a great product. It's a unique tortilla grill. That sounds cool. And believe Mexico could also be a good market. How is that possible to sell here and in Mexico? So, first of all, I think we might even eat more tortillas here than in Mexico. It's very, at least where I grew up in California and Nevada and the West Coast, Mexican food is like part of the culture. And I don't know if it is on the East Coast. I'm not really sure. Never really done a lot of traveling on the East Coast, so I don't know. Um, but yeah, so a licensing agreement can be broken out by product type, by variations of a product, by geography. So if you license it to a company that's really big in the U.S. and Canada, they're not selling in Mexico at all. You're going to leave Mexico out of that agreement, and they have the exclusive rights for the U.S. and Canada or wherever. And you could do another deal with a company that's selling in Mexico. Maybe they sell in Mexico, U.S. and Canada. Great, license it all to the same company. You could all be broken out in the licensing agreement. Let's see. Thank you guys for all saying yes. So funny that the chat in my admin just completely quit, but I went to my own live stream and I can see all your questions. So thank you. And I see the one I sent back to you guys didn't get through too. But hey, we'll do whatever we can to get you guys some help. Um, Yeah. Hill's saying, is there a particular CRM you like? I'm not going to recommend a particular one. There's a ton of them. You got to be really careful with CRMs. Some of them they look free, and then once you start using even the most basic features, they're like, oh, it's going to be $300 a month. And then there's other ones that are like $10 a month or something like that with the features that you need. So I'm not going to really tell you what CRM to use. Our students have used all different ones. My main advice is keep it simple. If you can make notes on what you did at each day, like another outreach on LinkedIn, send the email again, and then you could have a tickler that tells you a task. You create a task in it basically, and you go, okay, I just sent an email here, so I'm going to put a tickler in here. If nobody got back to me within 2 weeks, that it's going to have a pop up, and you have this task list, and it's like pops up, and it says reach out and gives you a date because that's 2 weeks from the date you send the email, and then you go to that record because usually if you set up right, you can see all the sent and receive emails. I think it depends on the CRM. You see if you received an email back, and you're not going to send another email if they did get back to you in that 2 weeks, but they didn't. You're going to send an email again. So I just keep it really simple, guys. You can get really fancy with the CRMs. And, if you're working on 10, 15 projects, I would say you should really use a CRM. If you want to do it on paper, great. Um, we've had students do that. But, if you're working on maybe 2 or 3 projects now, you don't need something super fancy. Whatever you do, be very consistent and methodical about it. That's what I would say. Okay, so this is interesting. CMLKM said, with Ryan Diaz and the Wolf Washer, Ryan Diaz is an InventRight coach, and he licensed a product called the Wolf Washer to a DRTV company. It was a very unusual scenario, but he's saying, would you, and he got interest after posting a video online, would you pursue viral social media or try to license it first? I would never post your invention publicly online to try to license it. That's just giving people tons of opportunity to knock you off. I would never, ever do that. I'm trying to remember, because that was a while ago, what happened specifically with Ryan. I think what happened is the company that he was looking to license it to had a B reel, and it was a fun reel, and it had no audio to it, I believe. And that was posted, I think, I might be wrong on this because it was a while ago. I need to talk to Ryan about it. I think he gave them permission to post something up. I don't think it was him. I might be wrong on that. To post something up on the internet, and I think they might even post it by accident, the wrong one or something. I don't think it was him. And it just went viral and it was crazy. And yes, but they were already looking at it. I think they were pretty serious about it. Now, he had a problem there too. It went viral and then it took them forever to bring it to market. And then it didn't do as well when it hit the market because it'd been viral and that had already died down. So never do that, guys. I can't think of some people go, oh, I want to post it on social media and maybe I can show them I got 200 likes. That means nothing. Nothing. It means nothing. You got 200 likes on Facebook. And when they do this isn't Facebook, but when they do focus groups, you pay money and they do focus groups. Only 1 in 10 people in those focus groups that when you ask them to open up their wallet would actually buy it, even though they said in the focus group they like it. So I'm not big on that. A focus group to figure out new features and stuff, if you get everybody to sign NDAs, okay, but not if they would like it. So it means nothing to companies that you got a bunch of likes on Facebook. That's a joke. Don't think that's a good thing to do. Don't do it. Do not publicly disclose your invention. And I just don't remember, it was pretty long ago, if Ryan posted that or they did. I think it was them. And I think he had given them permission because they said they wanted to do some testing. And then they posted the wrong video, as I recall. It didn't have any B-reel, so it didn't seem like an advertisement. So people just thought it was fun because it's this ring that you hook a garden hose to, and it washes the dog. And it was kind of funny. And that's why it went viral. I think if they had posted the actual infomercial, people are like, oh, they're trying to sell me something. I don't think it would have went viral. But that was just such an unusual situation. Let's see. Since we're talking about pets, Carrie said, hi, Andrew. I have a line of cat products using a certain material. Should I reach out to the people who make the material or a company who makes cat accessories? No way, shape, or form should you reach out to companies making the material. You don't license to contract manufacturers or manufacturers of material. You license to companies that have distribution where you want to be. So for cat products, that's brands that are selling it at Petco and PetSmart, and they sell a lot of pet stuff at Walgreens and Rite Aid and Target and Walmart. You license to those companies. So no, you do not reach out. This is generic advice. There might be some exception. You don't reach out to companies that are just using that particular material. No. Let's see. This one looks like fun. Khalid, how long does the inventor keep receiving a royalty check from the company before the product is knocked down by another company or a factory in China? Well, if the licensing agreement says they need to continue to pay you as long as it sells, well, if your guys that you license to are selling 80% of the product and the other company is selling 20% of the product, congratulations, you're successful. This perception that you're going to get a patent and you're going to beat everybody over the head with it and just send them a letter and everyone will go, okay, I'm sorry, or be trembling in their boots is not true. Now, if it's some little knockoff company and the company you license to is like, well, we're making a ton of money with this, are they going to send cease and desist letters to those companies knocking it off? Yeah, and if that little guy gets that cease and desist letter from a big company, they may stop it. Some may not. But congratulations. If your company's selling 80% of the product, the knockoffs are selling 20%. That means you're making a ton of money, probably. Okay. So that doesn't mean that the company can stop paying you royalties. This perception that they don't have to pay you royalties. And the licensing agreement stipulates that they need to pay you those minimum guarantees regardless. Now, I don't know, maybe at some point, I've never seen this with a single student. Maybe they're selling 20% and the knockoffs are 80% and they can't compete anymore. I've literally never seen that happen to an InventRight student. And they may complain, oh, we can't pay royalties anymore because the other guys are knocking us off, don't need to pay royalties. I've heard of that before. I talked to somebody about that just last week, and I don't remember ever having that conversation before. And I'm like, yeah, that could happen, but I haven't seen it happen. So it's not like because somebody's knocking the product off that the company you license to has the right to stop paying you. No. And we wouldn't let any inventor do a licensing agreement that would say that unless the inventor was okay with that. And I don't think we've ever seen that before. So that was an interesting question. Thank you. Richard said, if you have a special undercar mat, okay, and it could also be used as a small work table mat and can also be used as a small craft wall mat, Who do you choose to work with? Good question. And this might not even be his product. Maybe he's just giving, because guys, don't disclose your product. I'm going to assume that that is just a fictitious example. So when you have a product and it has three different markets, and yeah, like, okay, so let's say it's an undercar mat and it's a small work table mat. Okay, like people work in the garage in their cars, and they might have a work table. They have a little workshop in their garage too. Okay, there might be some overlap there, and a small craft mat. Okay, well, that's kind of a different category. Like, where do you buy craft stuff, right? You buy it at Joann's and Michael's and maybe Walmart and Target and some other places and stuff. Well, those are different distribution channels. Now, the undercar mat and the workbench mat that you might use in the garage, that might be some overlap. Like the company may sell that, and they could market it, if that's the category they're in, to people that have cars, but also people that have a little workshop. They're doing some um, workshop type stuff for mechanics or people that like to work on their cars, but also this or that. But are they going to sell, if they're selling tools and supplies for your workshop and your garage or cars? Are they going to sell in Joann's and Michael's a craft version? No. And if you suggest that, it's too disconnected. So you might license it. This is a random example, and I think what Richard was giving was random, to a company that's going to sell it for the car and for the garage, but you're going to hold back on the rights for the craft version. And they're like, hey, that's fine. It's kind of done. Marketing's different distribution channel. That does not step on our toes. We're okay with that. Then they might say, insist, no, we want it all categories. And you come back to them and go, but you're not even selling there. We'll kind of give it a different look, different market. Well, okay, you're right. That's not going to hurt us. So you might have, and I see a lot of students that have this. It's not, I'm going to use the word a lot, a percentage of students. It's like, well, you can hold back on this market and they'll be okay with it and try to do another deal here. But you got to figure out what you have on the table and what their perception is. But we've done that many times with our help our students. Patricio, yeah, I actually pronounced that right. Good for me. Pat on the back. Does it have to be a simple invention only? No. I mean, yeah, our book we did is one simple idea, but no, we have people working on incredibly complex things to incredibly super things to everything in between. Licensing can work for complex things as well as simple ideas. But obviously, if there's a lot for them to get into or research, and it's a tremendously complex project, is that going to be a little more difficult to license? Yeah, it probably is. Where they just look at it and go, well, there's that, and you're just making this change, and oh yeah, we can do that. As opposed to like there's all these decisions they need to make. Now, sometimes it could be a complex product, and they could just look at other products and go, well, we got that covered because we see these other companies are making it or we're making it, and your change isn't that difficult, you know? So it could be pretty complex, but it's obvious the product could be done because tons of people are doing it, but you've got this change, and that's not that complex. So it could be a complex project, but your change isn't that complex, and then that's not so bad. Okay, good. Wonderful and prosperous is their handle. That's cool handle. Hi, Andrew. I have a company that sent me a 20-page licensing proposal. When is the right time to locate and hire a licensing attorney? So for one, I've been getting a lot of so-called licensing proposals from some of our students where they thought it was a licensing agreement. They'd filed a patent before they came to us. You know, we teach you file a provisional. Don't spend all that money on a patent. But there's companies, invention, scam, promotion companies that will reach out to inventors. And there's some now that are doing it. They're not saying we want to represent you to license it for you, but they pretend like they're a potential licensee. And in the agreement, there's one I just saw a couple weeks ago, and I've seen it before. They want to charge the inventor $8,000 to do a licensing deal with them. I'm like, they pay you. You don't pay them. It's not a licensing agreement. So I would not be surprised this particular company is doing their rounds quite a bit. That if it's just as a side note, if you file a patent and you're getting this, if they're wanting to charge you, that's not a licensing agreement. That's a joke. Okay. And I was a little, I think the InventRight student I talked to, they were kind of fairly new. They were still getting their bearings, getting up and running with their coach. I'm like, dude, this isn't a licensing agreement. And I've seen this agreement many, many times before, and they're trying to charge you to basically be your agent. So, but they were representing it as a licensing agreement. So now I don't think that's tremendously common, but I've seen this one company making some serious rounds with inventors, and I'm seeing that a lot from InventRight, non-InventRight students. So now, but if you got the licensing agreement, I'm gonna just say nice things about us for a change. Yes, I'm biased, but you do not want a licensing attorney to help you negotiate a licensing agreement. What? But Andrew, that's all they do. So first of all, you're on track somewhat. You said licensing attorney. You want a licensing attorney at some point, I'll tell you when that is in a second, to review the licensing contract before you sign it. Not a patent attorney that does 3 licensing contracts a year or 5, but a licensing attorney, all they do is licensing agreements. Now, and I've said this many times before, if every time one of our students got interest, which is all the freaking time, it's normal to get interest, initial interest all the time. We said, oh, you need to go to a licensing attorney instead of sending them to our negotiation coach, Paul. Those licensing attorneys would kill 80% of the deals that Paul ends up helping our students close. Now, the reason for that is a couple-fold. From initial interest to contract is way more important than from contract to close. You need to do and say certain things to get to that contract. Now, if you got this contract, you may have got it prematurely, and there's still all that stuff to discuss. If you don't know how to negotiate so if we get students that get the contract early on, and then they're like, oh, we're just going to sign this, right? And then Paul's like, hell no. Like, we've never got a licensing contract. We're just like, sign it, ever. Okay. There's a ton of stuff missing. Sometimes their general counsel will do it, and we look at it and we're like, this isn't even a licensing contract. We don't care. Our negotiation coach, Paul, will help the students stuff it with all the stuff that's important, and we'll go back and forth with their attorney, and we'll get their attorney to make the changes and go back and forth. You're not signing anything there because we're not attorneys. Now, we'll go back and forth, and when we work with our students, they will get their licensing attorney or their attorney to make those changes. Maybe they'll debate certain things. And then when a deal is about 95% done, Paul will then say, only when a deal is 95% done, look, before you sign this, you need to have an attorney dot the I's and cross the T's. And you know, we know a couple licensing attorneys that if Paul, our negotiation coach, has helped them, they'll do that for like $350, which is nothing. They could easily charge you $3 or $4 grand. And that's not even the worst of it. When they charge you that kind of money, licensing attorneys, all attorneys, they're all about billable hours, right? So the more they nitpick it to death, the more billable hours they get, the more money they make. So they end up killing the deal, and then they send you this giant bill. And that's not a place where you want to be. So it's not just about saving the money. That's a side note. It's about them not killing the deal. And so even when a deal is 95% done, that our negotiation coach has helped our student get to that point, sometimes they fall off earlier, and you know it won't because you said something stupid because that the licensing attorney told you to say, because they're very abrasive and they tell you to do stupid things. You didn't say all the right things. And then when they get to 95% done, we'll say, look, have a licensing attorney dot the I's and cross the T's, what they're good at. The only time you should use one is, in my biased opinion, is to change this one word, change this one sentence. That's good. We're not attorneys. They might look at that minutia, right? But I had this one student, usually they go to the people we send them to, but they knew this licensing attorney. They wanted to go to them. And they came back and said, oh, these are the 5 things you need to change and blah, blah. And I'm like, this deal's done, dude. Like, I have never, ever seen any of these 5 things this licensing attorney told the inventor they needed to change. And I said to the inventor, I said, if you go back to them and you want to get this stuff, you're going to kill this deal. I've never seen any of this stuff be a problem. These are ridiculous things they want to add. They're just trying to create billable hours. Now, so I think I'm biased here, but you should have our negotiation coach, Paul, help you with this. Go through it in a very common sense way. And you should never let them talk to the company, ever. Okay? Do not let them. They're not good at negotiating, like I said, for all the reasons that I explained. So have Paul, our negotiation coach, help and move it forward, validate. There's things that I need to know here from you, like how long you've been talking to them, how many of the deal points have you covered. My guess is you covered, they and you did not cover a bunch of stuff. Also, it might be one of these invention scam companies. And so do this. Call the main number, have Heather or somebody in customer service book an appointment with me. I'll take a quick look at it to make sure it's not a scam. Well, right now, if they're charging you anything, it's a scam. Okay. Because no company is going to charge you to do a deal with them. That's ridiculous. I'm kind of boggled that an inventor would need to ask me that. They're just so excited about getting interest, but it's like, that's not a licensing deal. But I understand why people would ask. And then have an attorney just dot the I's and cross the T's on a done deal. So you've got the contract, but the question is, if you've been working out all these deal points, if you don't know what those are, they don't know what those are, probably not. You probably got it. Now, maybe they do a lot of deals with inventors, and you got to figure out what you can negotiate in there. But you should never do not just sign it, guaranteed. And you can use a licensing attorney if you want, but I'm going to tell you, they're going to give you bad advice 99 times out of 100. Not all bad advice, but some bad advice. And my God, you start talking, their attorney and your attorney start talking, they start fighting. Best way to kill a deal ever. So there's my bias viewpoint. Let's see. Alice said, is the administrative part of the 6-month coaching course timeline, or does the 6-month coaching begin with the first day of coach and a student meet for the premier package? Yeah, the 6 months of coaching starts from day one. The first call is an hour, and all the follow-up calls are half an hour. And you can email them anytime, and they're guiding you. And when you say administrative part, that's everything. I mean, like, you're right. What I was trying to say earlier is a big part of licensing is, I wouldn't say administrative, is not about the invention. It's about the invention, but it's about making your sell sheet, making your list of companies, filing your PPA, getting them up and running with your LinkedIn profile, using the templates you give to you to reach out to these companies. All that, if you want to call that administrative, and even making your sell sheet is good, it's, if you want to call that administrative, yes, that starts from this moment you start with your coach. And when people try to do this stuff on their own, you can give it your best stab, but it's usually very poor. So I would say 90% of the sell sheets I see from non-InventRight students are not good enough. And 5% are okay, and the other 5% are good enough. Literally, I'm not exaggerating. The marketing materials I see people do outside InventRight are not good enough. Their research wasn't right, and the basis for their materials aren't right. So you want to reach out to 30 companies with crappy marketing materials? Don't grab them. No. People have an anemic list of companies, like 2 or 3 instead of 20 or 30. They don't know how to reach out on LinkedIn. They're very concerned about the PPA. We teach you to file a PPA. So yeah, that starts the second you start with us. Don't see that as lost time. You doing the work and reaching out, that's what licensing is. Not all about the invention. Okay. I mean, it's about the invention, but it's not about the ideation of the creation. So yes, and that makes perfect sense that your coaching would start from the time you go there, because that's what we need to get you on track with. The first thing we do is step number 1, seeing if you've done this stuff and we're like, wow, you did a great job. The coach is going to tell you that. If they're like, you still need to find this info, come back and let's figure it out together on this or that, they will instantly jump to where you are in the process. So if you want to give it your best shot, Alice, but I'm going to tell you that most people do a very, very poor job of it. But if you've done it and you've done it right, and you felt like these videos or books were helpful, and the coach will just say, great, you did it right. Or this is 90% there. You're just going to make these tweaks. They're not going to make you go back and do work that you did correctly. But if you did it incorrectly, they're going to tell you 100% of the time, this is off here and here. We need to fix this. So you're putting your best foot forward. So Alice said, oh, we got a bunch of questions here. Oh my God. Are all the tools and services used to learn about how to do this, as well as develop and create products, included in the premium coaching price? Yes, there's no play or, oh, you need to buy this program or that program. Keep 100% of anything you license. We don't take a percentage. If a coach happened to come up with it, hey, you could improve this product like this, it's all yours. And we don't try to sell you other things either. So you get a sell sheet and a virtual prototype. You get the Bridging the Gap program, where we connect you with companies. but we're going to show you how to make your ideal list of companies for your particular product. You get co-founder calls, you get webinars, you get smart pitch, specifically show you how to reach out on LinkedIn. But the core of it, if you're doing all this extra stuff that we give you, I'd be like, get back to work on your project with your coach. Do some of this extra stuff, but don't do all of it. There's too much. We give you so many extras. It's amazing. Working on your project from day one, and experiential learning is what I call it, and just doing it and working on it. That is our focus. And every week you're working on it. You're checking with your coach. Before you get out in the world, they're double checking it. And then anything the world comes back at you with, we've seen it a million times before, having that reassurance will have an answer. Very reassuring. Okay. Are there any a la carte products we sell? Yeah, like for instance, Smart IP. We sell that product separately. It's only $99. You can file your provisional patent with it. But if the coach isn't helping you do your research and helping you brainstorm some workarounds, improvements, including the PPA, it's not as good. So everything is enhanced by the coaching. But yeah, you can get that separately, the Smart IP. And you can order a sell sheet from our design studio, a virtual prototype separately. But but that doesn't include the coach helping you with the marketing, right? So then you'll just have a pretty piece of junk. Our designers make stuff pretty, but the coach is the one who helps you with the marketing. So the designer, if you ordered a la carte, they'll just do whatever you tell them, and they won't evaluate anything. And if you're off on that, then you wasted your money. And that's with us or anybody else. Let's see. Sorry, the thing jumped up here. Let's see if I can just rattle a bunch of stuff off, and then, oh my goodness. Sorry, I lost track of where I was there. Alice, I don't know why you retracted all your questions there. I thought I was doing a good job of answering those. Maybe you just realized there were a lot of them there. No worries. Okay, so and your other question, wonderful and prosperous. From the licensing proposal, what's the next step? How long does it usually take to finalize the deal? So I don't know, you mean a licensing proposal. You send a sell sheet or a video, and I think what you mean is initial interest. And so from initial interest to closing a deal, for instance, it's not uncommon for one of our students to reach out to 30 companies, get initial interest from 5 or 3 or 4 or 1 or none. And so when you get interest, the timeline, I would say the wide range, extremes here, guys. 2 weeks is the fastest I've ever seen. The only company that's going to work that quickly is a DRTV, as seen on TV company. They like to lock inventors down real quick. And you got to be careful about that, because then you lock yourself down and you can't show it to others. And then they're like, oh, we changed our mind. That's very unusual. And then we've helped students with deals. One cool thing that I'll let you guys know, that what we don't put on our website because we don't want people to misinterpret it. I'm going to be very, very clear about this. If you get into a deal, okay, not initial interest, because our students get that all the time. But if you get a contract or a term sheet from a company during your membership, we'll help you with that one deal with that one company indefinitely. I don't care if it's a year and a half where the company's dragging for that one deal with that one company indefinitely. Will not charge you, will not ask you to renew. We don't put that on our website. That's what we do for our students, because people then misinterpret it. Oh, well, I got some interest here. I'm like, our students get interest all the time. But if you get to a contract stage while you're with us, or a term sheet, we'll help you indefinitely with that one product from that one company. So, but I would say the typical, it's a little bit longer these days because it's taking longer for companies to get quotes overseas to make sure they can make it and make it a reasonable price, even with their own factories or the people that they typically use because of the supply chain issues. But so the deals, I would say, are taking maybe an additional 3 or 4 weeks sometimes. So I would say a month and a half to 3.5 months is pretty normal for the time you show interest to the time you sign. It's pretty normal. But don't think that every company that shows a little initial interest, like that's a done deal. And we correct our students all the time on that. But our negotiation coach is waiting in the wings to jump right on that. So Keep It Real said, would it be advantageous to have an attorney draft up the licensing deal rather than doing it yourself the first time? We save our students a tremendous amount of money um, by it's much better to get their contract, and then our negotiation coach Paul bloodies their contract. And it's much better to modify theirs than for you to spend a bunch of money with the attorney, write a contract that it doesn't flow well. Sometimes you have to do that, but the vast majority of the time you don't. You don't want to have to go there. So we always take it the best case scenario first, which is getting them to send their contract, pull the trigger first. Flows much better. That's one of the many reasons our students close deals when others don't. Because you've been doing this for 22 years, guys. It's like all we do. Even if companies close 15 licensing deals, they don't have a fraction of our experience. Um, okay, guys, I'm 7 minutes over. I promised I have another meeting with somebody else in 3 minutes here. So I got to get going. I'm sorry I didn't get to all your questions. I never can, but I definitely got all the ones that were asked earlier. So I want to remind everybody to take care, keep inventing. The way you guys can thank me, if you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button down below. Click on the notification icon to watch a bunch of our videos. That's the way you can say thank you to me for spending a full hour of my time answering your guys' questions. Check out inventRight.com. You may not be ready yet, but Dana and Sylvia, who do sales for us, are very friendly, never pressure you. So if you go on the site, click on contact us, book an appointment with one of them just to investigate further about how we work with people, and they can talk to you about it. You might be like, I don't know, I might not sign up for a year or ever. Talk to them. And they'll be very nice. They're not going to hound you all the time or anything like that. They're very busy. So don't hesitate to do that. Okay, guys? Take care. Keep inventing. I'll catch up with you guys next time. See ya. Bye.